The Diaz brothers, the Emelianenkos, Edwards brothers,
There you go.
Nogueiras, the Shamrocks. That's not a bad list of mixed martial arts siblings. Then when we delve into boxing, we have the Smith brothers. I'm pretty sure Canelo had 8 brothers that all went into boxing. You've got Ricky and Matthew Hatton, the Klitschkos. Boxing is littered with pugilistic brothers, if that's the right terminology. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we have the Ryan brothers, Gordon and Nicky. Then we've got the ruitolos. In kickboxing, we have the Petrosyan brothers, Giorgio and Armin. So yeah, across combat sports, it looks like some of the best to ever do it have had a sibling, and the other half might not even have been as good. Now this isn't to say it has to be a brother. Just look at Islam Makhachev and Khabib. They might as well be brothers, both becoming UFC champions, training together since a very young age. They might as well be considered brothers. And then you've had Conor McGregor, who did the majority of his training with journeyman fighter Artem Lobov. So basically, to have someone as dedicated as you, that is of a similar body type in terms of size and weight, probably wouldn't do Mighty Mouse any good to be training with Francis Ngannou.
It's weird.
Or having that as a bigger brother. That might just be the best asset a person can have when it comes to training martial arts. So going back to a previous video I'd created, I think just yesterday or the day before, on how to get better faster, one of the things I recommended was to find a friend.
Best friends forever and ever. Oh, friend!
Having a friend that's a good training partner is a very handy tool. And then someone had left a comment on the video about notable fighters that had a sibling, and that inspired me to create this video. So thank you to Birmingham Judo for being a part of this pro striking community, and thank you for your own dedicated work within the local community. Us Brummies gotta stick together. So when it comes to drilling and practicing technique, it's obviously going to be very beneficial to have a good training partner. Everyone that's ever rolled in BJJ knows what it's like to have a dead body training partner that either flops around like a fish and can't hold a position for long enough to practice a technique, or someone as rigid as a corpse with rigor mortis that doesn't allow you to do anything. Sometimes when I write this stuff, I think, can I say that in 2023, 2024? Then we have the clunky and stiff sparring partners in kickboxing and Muay Thai that are all knees and elbows and you constantly hurt yourself training with them, or the guy that you get stuck with on pads in a class and he can't remember the combos, or he slams the pads into your punches and snaps your wrists. There's a wide variety of reasons of why someone is terrible to train with, and that directly impacts your own training and how quick you can progress. Unfortunately, sometimes your progression in martial arts isn't even down to you, but it's down to who you've got around you to build you up. That's why it's often these big super gyms that attract fighters that leave their smaller gyms to gain access to a better quality of training partners. Just look at Dustin Poirier back in the day, training with, I think it was, I know the guy's name, it was in a documentary called Fightville. You'll probably be able to find that on YouTube. It's in Louisiana. He trains with the guy from The Ultimate Fighter and ends up leaving that guy to go to train an American top team, and that is where he had the majority of his UFC career, if not in fact all of his UFC career. That's the number one thing a big gym can offer outside of the coaching and training facility, is the number of bodies on the mat. And if those bodies are also all training at a high level, it's like that old expression that the rising tide raises all ships. Now sure, good coaching is 100% going to be a factor. Does the gym cultivate a good team environment where guys are trying to help each other rather than hurt each other? But damn, it's gotta be good to have a brother or sister that's almost identical to you to be able to train with. It must be nice showing up to class without the anxiety of who you're stuck with for that hour or two. You know, that pre-training fear when you're tired from work, it's cold and wet outside, it's the start of the new year, it's January, February in the UK, and it's just horrible. This is what happens when you're looking for reasons to not go to training, and you just can't be asked to go to the gym, and then you just think about that last training session you had with the absolute mammoth of a man that made you feel this big, and you just think, fuck it, I'm going home.
He's done! That's it! Come on now!
Microweight champion.
Me?
Good fight.
Now in Muay Thai in Thailand, this isn't as important, as you'll have at some point in the session one-to-one time with a pad man. These gyms you'll be training 2, maybe even 3 times a day, 2 or 3 hour sessions, so you've got a whole length of time to train in, you ain't worrying about other things, and you'll get that one-to-one time at some point without having to pay extra for it. Then if you fight for the gym, you'll have it almost too much, as trainers will be gambling their money on you, so it's in their best interest for you to be good and actually win fights. That's when the Thai trainers aren't all smart.
That's
What's the test then? Obviously.
In the West, most people have other obligations outside of training, like school, college or work, so are limited to how long and often they can train. So those sessions become much more crucial. Those couple hours a week that you can get into the gym are going to be a much bigger percent of your overall training development. So having that brother, sister or best friend that trains with you is going to massively accelerate your development. Every champion was built in gyms with teams that consist of other fighters, and it's usually the fighters you never hear of that have been a staple in the champions' camps. Now the sibling element has an extra dynamic where they'll be going home together, maybe watching fights together or practicing things on class, at home together, doing their homework. So that's more time spent practicing the martial art. Then you add in the competitive sibling element where it's natural for a brother or sister to want to get the praise and admiration of their parent and be better than their sibling. That takes a little dark turn and probably some Freudian psychoanalysis can take place, but that's for a different video. So yeah, that extra element can make someone want to work harder than their brother or sister. So like beating them in a run or doing an extra round on the bag to stay ahead of their brother or sister. You don't want to be the one getting outworked. Even look at other sports like tennis where you have Venus and Serena Williams. Now I really enjoyed the film King Richard starring Will Smith as the dad and seeing how that dynamic paired out and how important it was for both sisters' success to have each other. It's also probably given more rise to parents trying to manufacture this, trying to create their own sporting heroes from birth. As King Richard showed in the movie, he had a blueprint. So go out and procreate, people. You might produce the next Diaz brothers. So when we look at fighters like Khabib and Islam, they weren't biological brothers, but they're as close to siblings as you're ever going to get. And it's no coincidence they both became world champions with similar styles and strengths. They came through together and were raised up to championship level by each other. Obviously they had the guidance from Khabib's father in Abdulmanap, but it seemed like he treated them like they were both his own sons. They also actually seem like really good, genuine friends, which is nice to see, unlike Conor and Artem Lobov, who are now in a legal dispute over the whiskey deal.
This is a call out to Artem the Fanny, Fairly Pad, Lobov, going through having lawyers message me about defamation and all this suing and all. You're a little blouse, mate. I'll see you at SBG Concord tonight, 10:30 p.m, and I'll fight you for the whole lot, yeah?
It is also no coincidence that these successful siblings are always nearly the same size and weight, going back to Marcy Mouse and Francis Ngannou training together. So when you're going to your local martial arts gym, the instructor will usually say, or he should say, partner up with someone of a similar size and weight. Now I've trained with people literally double my size. As a 6'2" former lightweight, 70 kilogram, 155 pound fighter, I was considered big enough to go with the big guys and light enough to go with the little guys. This could often be to my detriment when I'd end up with a 6'2", 180 pound purple belt in jiu-jitsu, to then be told we were doing specific training on mount escapes. Some could say this was character building. Others might describe this experience as traumatic. Being suffocated by a sweaty gi is similar to waterboarding. I'm somewhere in between trauma and character building, but let's just say it wasn't the most productive way I could have spent my martial arts hour. So yeah, it's of a massive advantage to have a sibling that trains with you. If you're Thai and the other one, the other ruitolo, I can't remember his bloody name, I don't know which one's better either, I'm not a massive jiu-jitsu guy. So yeah, if you're one of those brothers and you get to go home and just roll for hours and hours on end, extra, doing all that extra stuff for your Valentina and Antonina Shevchenko, I think that's right. Antonina. If you're them basically and you're going home and extra sparring together, extra drilling, you're just gonna get better. It's more time, not only training, but training properly. So going back to other videos I've created and other things commonly talked about in combat sports about how to improve like the learning curve or reduce the learning curve. It's about training with intent and deliberate practice. And if you've got a good training partner and you're not actually like having to mess around or they're giving you the right reactions, the right looks to be able to implement the technique properly, then you're just going to get better faster. That's just how it goes. You get the rub from each other. Iron sharpens iron, another old saying. So if you have a brother or sister, utilize them. If not, well, it's probably no use trying to convince your parents to create you one if you're over the age of, say, 3 years old. But you can try your best to locate a similar body type that you both can have a good old time with, no homo. I think having a brother or sister that trains with you isn't a necessity, but it's definitely going to help. Just look at all the things out there, like the grapple dummy, that have been created for people to be able to train better in their own time. Now imagine you have a clone of you, an exact copy of you. And it's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Sixth Day or whatever that movie is where the clone takes his life.
They are my family.
Imagine the clone is there to serve and help you. He's a slave clone, and his only job is to help you train and be better. You will be the ultimate martial artist. Who is the best brother and sister in combat sports history. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. You can also follow me over on Patreon for extra content over there, and you can shoot me questions into my inbox and I will answer them in a reasonable time depending on how much you're paying me. If you're paying me £1 a month, then don't expect it to be within a minute of the message sent. Pro striking out. I'll catch you later.
Or injured victims currently at your...
Forget about talking to the police. I tried that already.
Who the hell are you? Who the hell are you?
I know this sounds insane.